The law of big numbers plays up again at Apple. They've got $100 billion of cash. They finally figured out what to do with some of it. Some dividends, some buybacks. They're going to pay out $45 billion over 3 years. Rob, are the numbers big enough here?
No, not at all, actually. That's the funny thing. If you look at it, they're basically going to make about $50 billion in free cash flow this year. That means after investing everything they do, they're going to still have an extra $50 billion to play with. So that doesn't even cover the $45 billion.
So it hasn't even touched the $100 billion that was sitting there to begin with?
No, it won't even. In fact, the $100 billion will probably be growing. And if you think about it, the companies...
Yeah, even in the first quarter they do this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The 100... Well, already by then the 100 could be 125 or
right,
something.
but we'll have to see how the new iPad does, but I mean, yeah.
Exactly, and then you have to figure also that sales have been growing at 70% a year, 77% a year in the last quarter. Earnings more than doubled. So you have to figure, you know...
So this big announcement about Apple's cash, we really haven't seen what they're going to do with their cash.
Exactly. In other words, we're going to have this same discussion in another couple of months.
Well, I mean, let's just be the other side.
Be a little fair to Apple.
The other side of the law of big numbers. This is going to be the second, by a tiny bit, the second biggest. By only a tiny bit second, the biggest dividend that gets paid by any US company. Mm-hmm. So only AT&T is bigger, and AT&T is a much smaller company because the dividend yield is much higher. But you know, if Apple in a year's time says, "Well, we're going to put the dividend up," I don't know, 5%, it'll be the biggest.
And the other thing is, obviously, we're looking at this in the context of their whole cash, which is important, but this is also, I mean, it's really about their U.S. cash.
Yeah.
And in that sense, they're paying out.
What happens?
Not all of it, but quite a bit of it.
What happens is if you bring cash back from overseas, you pay a big tax hit, and no company wants to do that, so they leave it over there. And what they're doing is they're basically paying out, it's, like I said, it's about $15 billion a year in dividend and buyback. But if you look at the numbers, they're probably going to have about $16 billion in U.S. free cash flow this year.
And how much of the 100 that they've got is actually in the U.S.?
$34 billion.
$34 billion.
Yeah.
Now the yield on this is actually a little bit under the S&P 500 average. It looks like
the yield is going to be a bit under 1.5% probably dividend yield.
But the idea is also this will bring in a whole new base of investors. Amazingly enough.
Well, there are investors who can only invest in stocks that pay a dividend.
Right.
And I mean that's the starting point for broadening the investor base. I mean, we've made the point. Apple's worth what now? 600
billion.
So we've made the point. Actually, on the metrics, could easily be worth $1 trillion. I mean, that's a huge number, but it actually could, based on profit and growth.
And this will be, and this is a good, I mean, another step in that direction, getting fresh new investor base. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll keep an eye on Apple, and we'll be back with more Breaking Views tomorrow.